Welcome students. Today we undertake a comprehensive examination of one of the most fundamental concepts in management and sociology, the organization. Whether we realize it or not, our lives are inextricably linked to organization. From the hospitals where we are born to educational institutions where we learn and the corporations where we work. Organization form the fabric of our modern existence. In this lecture, we will move beyond a basic definition. We will trace the historical development of organization structures, analyze the organization as a complex system, and dissect the fundamental principle that govern how these entities functions. We will also draw critical distinction between the formal structure created by the management and the informal social network that arise spontaneously among employees. Before we dive into the details, let us establish our roadmap for this session. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to first trace the development of organizational structure from pre-bureaucratic form to modern post-bureaucratic system. Second, you will be able to articulate the meaning and nature of an organization supported by key academic definitions. Third, we will conceptualize the organization as a system of inputs, process and outputs. Fourth, we will outline the sequential steps involved in the process of organizing. Fifth, we will discuss the core principles that ensure an organization function efficiently. And finally, you will be able to critically compare and contrast formal and informal organization, understanding the role each plays in the workplace. So let us begin with an insightful observation by Amitai Edgioni. He noted that we are born in organization, educated in organization, and most of us spend much of our lives working for organization. He goes on to say that even in our leisure time, we are playing within organizations. And eventually, even the state, the largest organization of all, must grant permission for our burial. What does this tell us? It suggests that an organization is not just a building or a business, it is a social grouping consisting of individuals. These individuals have specific needs, interests, perception, and values. Management operates through these individuals. Therefore, understanding the organization is essentially understanding how to coordinate human beings toward a common goal. How have these structures evolved over time? We can trace a path from ancient tribal organization to the post-industrial structure of today. Let us first look at pre-bureaucratic or entrepreneurial structure. This form lacks standardization. It is most common in smaller organizations and is best suited for simple tasks. The defining characteristic here is centralization. The strategic leader makes all key decisions and communication is typically one-on-one. Ideally, this allows a founder to control growth, but it is scalable? Usually not. As organizations grow, they tend to adopt bureaucratic structure based on Max Weber classification of authority. This structure introduces standardization. They are better suited for complex, large-scale operation and usually adopt a tall hierarchy. This creates a tension echoed in Burns and Stocker's distinction between mechanistic structure, which are rigid, and organic structure, which are more fluid. Since the 1980s, we have seen the rise of the post-bureaucratic organization. But what does this term actually mean? In a generic sense, it describes ideas like total quality management and matrix organization. However, theories like Hester argue that these are often just cleaned up bureaucracies. They still rely on hierarchy and authority. However, there is a more specific definition of post-bureaucracy where decisions are based on dialogues and consensus rather than command. In this model, The organization is a network, not a hierarchy. The boundaries are open. This horizontal decision-making model is often found in cooperatives and non-profits designed to empower people. Furthermore, current theorists are applying complexity theory to organization, studying how simple structure can lead to improvisation and adaptation in dynamic environments. Let us look at two specific structural types mentioned in the literature. First, the functional structure. These groups employees based on their specific job function. For example, an internet service provider might have a vice president overseeing distinct departments for sales, customer service, engineering, and accounting. It is logical and specialized skill. Second, we have the matrix structure. This is more complex. It groups employees by both function and product simultaneously. For instance, a company producing product A and product B will have sales and accounting teams for each product. There are three types of matrix structure. First is weak matrix. The functional manager retains most of the power. Balanced matrix. Power is shared equally between the project manager and functional manager. This is delicate to maintain. Third is strong matrix. The project manager has primary responsibility. So far, we have established that organizations are undoubtedly social grouping. We have traced their evolution from simple, centralized, pre-bureaucratic forms to standardized bureaucracies, and finally to complex post-bureaucratic and matrix system that attempts to balance flexibility with control. To ground our understanding, let us look at how scholars define this concept. A.S.L. Massey defined an organization as a structure and process by which a cooperative group allocates tasks, identifies relationships, and integrates activities toward common objective. W.R. Scott views them as a collective established for W.R. Scott views them as collectivities established for the pursuit of specific objectives on a continuous basis. Chester Bernard provides a slightly different perspective, stating that an organization is a system of consciously coordinated activities or forces of two or more persons. Do you notice the common thread? It is the concept of coordination and common objective. The term organization can mean different things to a sociologist, a psychologist, or an executive. However, fundamentally, it is a group of people intentionally organized to accomplish a goal. We can identify 12 key characteristics of an organization. It consists of a group of persons. They share common objective. It is a deliberate creation, not accidental. It is a core management function. It is a continuous process. It relies on cooperative relationship. Communication is its lifeblood. There is a hierarchy of authority. It functions systematically. It exhibits rational behavior. It requires leadership. And finally, it required coordination. Within the nature of an organization, several implicit and explicit features guide its direction. First, the vision. This is the image in the member's mind of how the organization should appear when everything is working perfectly. Second, the mission. This is the overall purpose for which the organization operates. Third, the values. These are the priorities and personality of the organization, its cultures. From this, the organization derives strategic goals and strategies, the general approaches to reach those goals. All systems and processes within the entity must align with these elements to be effective. One of the most powerful way to understand an organization is to view it as a system. A system is an organized collection of parts integrated to accomplish a goal. Think of it this way. The system takes input such as raw materials, money, technology, and people. This input go through process. where they are coordinated and aligned. This produces outputs, tangible results like products, and outcomes, benefits like customer satisfaction. Critically, there is a feedback. This comes from employees and the larger environment like government, economy, customers. This feedback ensures the system stays aligned with its goals. It is important to remember that organizations are systems made up of subsystems like departments, which are made up of peoples who are themselves system. How does a manager actually create this structure? Lewis A. Allen defined organizing as a process of identifying and grouping work, defining responsibility, and establishing relationships. We can break this down into specific steps. Step 1, determination of objective. You must know the purpose before you act. Step 2, identification of activities. The group pools efforts to decide what work needs to be done to avoid duplication. Step 3, grouping of jobs and assigning duties. Suitable persons are fit to classified job with adequate authority. Step 4, establishing the structure. Positions are arranged in a hierarchy with clear authority. Step 5, allocation of resources and setting a coordinating system. This ensures the work of one employee contributes to rather than overlap with another. So we have just defined the organization not merely as a group of people but as a deliberate continuous system involving input and output. We also outlined the organizing is a process that begins with a setting objective and ends with establishing a hierarchy and coordination mechanism. Why is sound organization so vital? As Peter Drucker famously said, a good organization structure is not a panacea, but the right organization structure is the necessary foundation. Without it, even the best performance is ineffectual. A sound organization facilitates smooth management function like planning and controlling, ensure coordination between different departments, provide clear channel of communication, and facilitate growth and expansion by keeping activities under control, allow for the adoption of new technology due to flexibility, promote specialization ensuring individuals are placed in jobs best suited for them, and ultimately contribute to the survival and efficiency of the enterprise. To achieve a sound organization, manager must adhere to certain fundamental principles. Let us review the first of these essential rules. Principle of objective. Every part of the organization must focus on the basic objective. Principle of division of job. Work should be divided so that individuals perform a single principal function to achieve specialization. Principle of unity of command. This is critical. A person should receive order from only one supervisor to avoid conflict and divided loyalty. Principle of span of control. There is limit to the number of subordinates a manager can effectively supervise. This number varies based on the job's nature. Principle of scholar chain. The line of authority from the highest to the lowest executive must be clear. Then, principle of delegation. Authority should be delegated to the lowest possible level consistent with necessary control. Then, principle of absoluteness of responsibility. While you can delegate authority, you cannot delegate responsibility. The superior remains responsible for the subordinate actions. Continuing with the principles of equality of authority and responsibility. Authority delegated must match the responsibility expected. You cannot hold someone responsible if you have not given them the authority to act. Principle of coordination. There must be an orderly arrangement of group effort. Then, principle of flexibility. The structure must permit growth and adaptation to environmental changes without disrupting operations. Then, principle of efficiency. Objectives must be accomplished at the minimum possible cost. Principle of continuity. The organization must survive changes in personnel. Then, principle of balance. No single function should be given undue emphasis at the cost of others. Then, principle of exception. Top management should focus on exceptional matters while routine decisions are taken at lower levels. We now arrive at a crucial distinction, the difference between formal and informal organization. A formal organization is a planned structure. It involves official authority ranging from the board of directors down to the operative workers. It is an intentional structure of roles. It arises when people communicate and are willing to contribute to a common purpose. Its characteristics are clear. It is created deliberately by the management. It is governed by well defined policies and rules. It is job centric, not people centric. It maintains a strict chain of command and definite network of communication. In contrast, we have the informal organization. This is not deliberately structured, it arises spontaneously as a result of personal and social relation in the workplace. As Keith Davis defined it, it is a network of personal and social relation arising spontaneously as people associate with one another. Its characteristics include spontaneous development. It is not formally sanctioned by the management. It is a response to unfulfilled human needs. It operates through informal authority. It is usually smaller and less permanent than the formal structure. But why does this matter? Because it influences productivity and motivation. You might ask, is the informal organization a hindrance? Actually, it serves vital functions. To the members, it fulfills the need for affiliation and belonging. It ensures a sense of security. It acts as a safety valve for emotions. And for to the management, it makes it easier to seek cooperation. It provides a channel for rapid feedback. If managed well, it can actually increase productivity and efficiency by improving morale. Let us conclude by rigorously comparing these two concepts side by side. On the basis of structure, formal is deliberately created where informal is spontaneous. In objective, formal aim for enterprise goals and informal aim to satisfy the social needs of members. In orientation, formal is oriented toward efficiency and growth. Informal is oriented toward social psychological needs. In flow of authority, informal authority flows strictly from top to bottom, and informal authority can flow in any direction. In size and durability, formal organizations are generally large and permanent, where informal groups are smaller and relatively unstable. In leadership, formal structure managers assume leadership by appointment, and informal structure, leaders are chosen or elected by the group members based on influence. In summary, today we have journeyed through the concept of organization. We have seen that it is a deliberate, systematic process essential for achieving group goals. We analyzed the rigorous principles such as unity of command and span of control that keep an organization functioning efficiently. Finally, we recognize that every formal structure designed by the management, there exists a living, breathing, informal network of human relationships. To be an effective manager, one must understand and navigate both. Thank you for your attention to this lecture on organization. Thank you very much, dear students.